So, I don't know why I went live. Kahiso is joining me at 8:30 for a podcast. So I have this podcast called "What's Your Poison" that I've been doing for a couple of years. That is basically where I invite artists on, and we just get fuck drunk, really. um, so I have one scheduled tonight with Kahiso, and it was for 8:30. Now it's 10:30. I've just been kind of sitting here and I've got a whole plethora of whiskey bottles. So I've sort of been quietly drinking and watching Steve Harvey videos, waiting. And then I just thought I would go live. Not quite sure why, but yeah. So these interviews, I used to do them on the iRadio show, and I just had this whimsical idea that I should start doing them again, where I bring in people that I really idolize. I mean, Kahiso is a fucking legend. And then the idea is that we sit together. Well, we used to sit together, but now in the new space, we Zoom together and we drink a lot. And what happens is, so there's like a secret to these interviews. The secret is um, they're fun. There's no agenda. I don't have a list of questions. But you get to know someone when you're drinking. I mean, I'll give you a tour of what I got here. American Barrel, which I've drank most of right now. What have I got here? Elijah Craig, which is very good whiskey, actually. Problem is, I actually wanted someone to sponsor this podcast. I've got Boulet, which I absolutely love. Yummy. And I've got Glen Grant. But the problem is that because it's got the word poison in the title of the podcast, no right-minded brand will sponsor it. So it's just a pile of fun. So I've spoken to Emil Kalukazi. I've been drinking for 2 hours. He is the IBF Youth World Champion. I've done the Parlor Tones. I've done a whole bunch of people, and so I love this series because it was fun. And the last few months have been very stressful, obviously from work perspective, from COVID-19 perspective, from life perspective. It's been so intense since I started Busker. I've been working on it like 7 days a week until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to do something fun again, so I decided on a total whim I'm going to bring back What's Your Poison. And What's Your Poison is the most fun show for me. If you like it, that's just your problem. What it basically does is we sit and get totally pissed with really great. I've got Art Matthews next week. I've got Kahiso tonight if he ever shows up. And that's not a slide on him. I'm a huge fan of him. Like that fucking Netflix series he did, mind-boggling. The fact that it's on Netflix, mind-boggling. The show is fucking brilliant, mind-boggling. I can't wait for him to arrive. He's going to give me a 5-minute heads up, but he's having some issues at home. So it's been 2 hours so far, waiting for it to. It might happen. It might happen while I'm on. I kind of got bored of waiting, and also I probably drank too much, so I just thought I'm going to go live. Ooh! And see what happens. But the idea is actually, what's the beauty of it? I've never really told you. You know, all the people I've had through What's Your Poison. No, the title is in the toys. What is your vice? It's about exploring the vice of people that you love. I'm in my dressing gown. Let me just take that off because that's not professional. Um, explore, talking about vices and fuck ups and shit that people don't speak about. So that's really the purpose of What's Your Poison. But the real beauty of it is that when the person on the other side starts drinking, you start getting stories that you've never heard before. So it's like kind of a 007 ninja move. It's like, why people like to do What's Your Poison? Because it's super fun. If you're used to doing interviews and you're the biggest star in the world, you're like, oh, I'm going to go on a podcast and just drink and talk shit. That's awesome. But I have an agenda because it's in my nature, where the more you chat to me, the more I'm aware that we're getting drunk, and the more I ask some tougher. I'll be honest. On 3 of the podcasts I've done so far, the guest has cried. Now think about that. Not in a cruel way. They haven't cried because um, they're I've made them upset, but it's because they get emotional and they get loose-lipped. And when you start asking like real questions, like hard-hitting questions, that's when you get amazing stories. That's why the What's Your Poison podcast is awesome. Um, There are 5 episodes, but they're coming out. They're all recorded of the new one. So as I said, I did this on a radio show for many years, and now I've kind of put them into a podcast series. So they'll be coming out. You can find them on Spotify and all that. And they get a bit rough, but what's happening over the next few weeks is going to get super duper rough. So that's exciting. Hello, Nish. Keen to check out What's Your Poison? Well, you are checking it out. This might seem like a waste of viewership, which I don't want it to be because I'm in competition with Netflix and Instagram. But the truth is, I shouldn't be broadcasting right now. But I'm waiting for Kahiso, who should come on. I mean, I'm just going to check. It should be nearly time for him. I'm going to check in with him now. I checked with him at 9 o'clock, and he said he was having some issues. I'm going to just ask him if he had any closer. No, no pressure. I don't want to pressure the guy. He's a god, so I don't want to pressure a god. Have you ever tried pressuring a god? It's not good. Any closer? Um, and really, it's not actually about the broadcast because I'm going to delete this broadcast after it's gone out. I wanted, this was my idea anyway. I wanted for it not to tell anyone we were doing this, for suddenly this thing to arrive for like 11 people to see it and then delete the video so that people's like, did that really happen? But then it will come out in like 5 weeks' time as a podcast. Um, yeah, what else? That's it. That's my story. I don't know if I should just end the broadcast or carry on babbling. Maybe I'll pour myself another whiskey. Does anyone want a whiskey? Well, I do. So, shall I do a whiskey review? Except that's the end of that bottle. This is a very interesting whiskey called American. What does it say? American Barrels, because it comes in a beautiful bottle. It's got a beautiful logo. It even has really nice dog tags, but it's not actually great whiskey. So it's all in the packaging. It made me. I was tricked. Um, Today is also the 1 year anniversary of Amped Studios, which it's very exciting for me as well. I don't know what I'm doing babbling on this. I did not stream. I never do this. I've been wanting to, but I just haven't done it. Okay. Um, what else can I tell you? Oh, so this is my plan. Let me give you some plans. Unless if anyone has any questions, just chuck them at me. But um, I want to first we're going to play drinking games, right? I'm going to give you the lay of the land. First, we're going to play drinking games with Kahiso. Um, First of all, I wanted to do like a Nuit for Nuit thing with him, but instead of like songs to do comedians, like I've actually recorded a whole lot of comedians like Andrew Dice Clay, Trevor Noah, Eddie Murphy and shit. But actually, when I thought about it, I did a whole lot of work preparing it. I was like, this is really lame. You'll get it straight away. So I've got a different drinking game we're going to play. And really, look, I don't really have more of an agenda. The idea is have fun, drink a lot, and that's it. Okay. Maybe I should just end this because I don't know. Well, I thought maybe it'd come on by 10:30, so I just started this broadcast in some hope that the planets would align, Kakisa would jump on. Look, I even put it in the title bar. You can read it right there. Um, yeah, that's it. That is it. Kyle Ward says you. Oh, look what I can do. Check this out. How do I do this now? Oh, watch this. Oh, look, Kyle Ward's messages in there. Nish Pillai's messages in there. Indiana Harris, happy birthday. Also, never mind how the whiskey looks. How does it taste? Oh, that's what I was trying to say, actually. Thank you, Indiana, for bringing that up. Okay, well, I got a few, right? So if I'm going to do a whiskey review while I'm waiting for him, American Barrels is affordable, right? First of all, I only drink bourbons. So that's shame on me. I have a story about that, which I'll tell you in a minute. The American Barrels is a beautiful bottle, which I was really like, this is awesome. And it'll probably go on the shelf, but it's a little bit, it's like, it's not a great whiskey, right? But Elijah Craig, which they've stopped making apparently, I don't know if that's a marketing ploy because they say that, but then I have found it again. This is a damn fine whiskey. If you're into bourbons, Elijah Craig is a beast. I got that for a birthday present, and now I really love it. But the best of the bourbons, other than Jack Daniels, is Bulle. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I always get like nervous. I get a stutter when I'm about to say it because it's like bullet, bullet. How would you say that? Bullet. How do you say that without sounding like a total dick? Hello, bartender. Can I have a bullet? bourbon. They're like, what are you saying? Bullet. Do you mean bullet? Yeah, whatever fuck that says. And then I've also got everything's like dregs. Glen Grant. Now that's quality shit, but I actually prefer the bourbon. Nish Pillay asks me, "Oh, watch this. I'll put it up on the screen. Abracadabra. Look, Nish's. There's a question from Nish. Magic. Truth be told, Nish, I am a beast of a streamer. I've got all the secret weapons. I do use OBS, but I'm not using it at this particular moment. I'm using some other top secret software. I use a combination of things. And I'll tell you this, if you're interested, if you're a streaming person, to stream what I'm doing tonight's relatively complicated. Not right now. But to get Zoom, which I have got somewhere up here, I'm just waiting for Kajizo to come, and then I will. I don't know when he's going to come. Probably 11 o'clock. Look, Kajizo was scheduled for 8:30. It's now 10:40. Um, but what I've actually had to do is use a piece of software called Loopback that routes the audio. I'll try and explain this. My microphone, that's it there, goes into a special box and all that does all the magic to make it sound really good. Then it goes inside my computer. Then it goes into Zoom, which I'm busy recording through because I want to record the interview with him through it. Then it goes into a recorder called Audio Hijack. Now that's a damn fine recorder. Then there's another piece of software called Loopback, which is an audio routing tool. It takes the audio from Zoom, takes it into Audio Hijack, records it so that I've got a master file, and then sends it through Loopback into the Facebook live stream. Now, that was not easy to figure out, but that's what I'm doing. Lebo Hang. Oh, I can look at this. I can make it come alive. Look, your message is on the screen. There it is. Right there. John, you are a savage. Thank you. And Indiana wants to know if it looks good and sounds great. Good job. Thanks, Indiana. Thanks to you. If it wasn't for you, that would sound terrible. Nish says, "Oh wow, epic! Look at that. It's magic. It's on the screen." This is a live broadcast of Waiting for Godot. If you know what that is, if you don't know what that is, then I sound like an idiot. It is a famous play about two idiots who sit and wait forever and nothing ever happens. In a way, this is the live broadcast of Waiting for Godot, except I'm waiting for Mr. Ledijo. I have texted him to say, when the fuck will you be here? But I did it in a very polite way. Said, any closer? And he's not here yet. Cheers to you. I used to do radio shows drinking whiskey, and one of my favorite things was when people used to send me pictures of them drinking whiskey at the same time. This might seem lame. I don't know why. I just have been waiting for a long time for just went live. Okay, what's going on here? How did it go? I couldn't find your stream, says my friend Carl. It hasn't happened yet. Let me just quickly tell him. I'll do a voice note live on Facebook. It hasn't happened yet. I'm still waiting. I'm a bit drunk. When I say a bit, I'm saying that because I'm streaming this for no good reason. He hasn't arrived yet, but he will soon. That was a live voice note, live on Facebook, live streamed, which I think is a world first. If Guinness Records were here now, they'd be like, did that dude just do a live voice note, live on Facebook, live through all of his software? And they would have said, let's give him the award for most live show ever. Okay, I have another message. Fuck, Nick is there. Hi, Nick. He hasn't come on yet, if that's not obvious. Don't remind him, because I'm not trying to be rude. I actually said, I'm totally chill. You sort your shit out. I'll wait here. I've been sitting in this chair with this all set up nicely for quite a while. I do not mind waiting because I idolize the man. It's like waiting for Bono. That's actually better than waiting for Godot. But I got bored not doing anything. I've been tempting to live stream something for the last month or two and haven't had the balls to do it. I'll tell you what I have been doing, which I do not have the balls to do now. Hold on, who's texting me now? Carl. Scan with camera, riddle break. Thanks, Carl. Oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting lots of messages. One of the things I have been tempted to do is I have a character. Should I? I will have to be very drunk to bring him out. That plays the piano. Oh, this might be an idea. This might be the most embarrassing thing I'll ever do in my life. Sing a song, jog. Oh, can we join live? Lebohang, there is a way, but it's a bit complicated. So I have this character which I've been toying with. That well, this is actually very timeless. He acts like a drunk, obnoxious fool. His name's Disco Dave, and he improvises bad music. And I've kind of been messing about with this idea of just doing a live stream with no clothes on, a keyboard where my peaky peaks go, my Disco Dave wig, and just do obnoxious, drunken, improvised songs. And I've been preparing this mentally for quite some time and have not had the balls to do it. By the way, everyone who might be watching, 13 of you, I'm going to delete this video after it's done. So there will be no record of what's going on here. So this is what in the biz we call some live ramblings. I could give you a little bit of a preview of that, but now that I'm speaking it out loud, I think it's probably a terrible idea. The idea is, yeah. I'll show you the wig though. Hold on, I have it on standby. So I wear. Okay, so Disco Day. Well, actually, I'll tell you the truth. I have a gold suit, a custom-made suit by a famous designer, but it got eaten by. I used to do it years ago. It got eaten by rats because we put it in the outside. What do you call that thing? Place where it's outside. And so yeah, so it didn't get so. And also he has an afro wig, which probably might not be very PC in these day and age. So hold on, let me show you Disco Dave. Just give me. Is this happening? I'm not sure. Okay, let's have a look. So I'm gonna try to do this quickly. Hold on a second. I'm gonna introduce you to Disco Dave quickly. Ow, shit! I just hit my head on a light. Okay, that's Disco Dave's. This is not the right wig, actually. This is one of my wife's wigs because Disco Dave's afro wig got eaten by rats. And then these stupid red glasses. And there it is. I mean, that's a complete transformation. There's no way you'd know who I am. Then I have to just act drunk and obnoxious and go like, what the fuck do you want? Motherfucking Disco Dave. Get all cocky and shit. Then I put the piano on. And like go... Hold on, let's move the camera a little bit, shall we? Can't see anything. I can turn this light on. There's my green screen. I don't know what's going on anymore. Hold on a second. I'm on the Facebook Live, and I'm a motherfucker. I drank my whiskey as if I was a trucker. It goes on that for hours. Complete waste of time. But this is the idea. No clothes, this wig, this sunglasses, improvised absolute bullshit music, and call it a gig. See what happens. Anyway, those are the types of things that goes through my mind about what I want to do on Facebook Live. And because I haven't had the balls to do anything on Facebook Live for the longest time, and I've been waiting for Cojizo. That should be the name of my whole podcast for 2 hours. I eventually got drunk and decided that I was going to just stream live until he got there, thinking it would be 5 minutes. Now it's gone on too long. Anyway, I know that was probably a shock for you to me to be a live transformation on Facebook, but it did happen. Can we? Yeah, that's pretty much everything. If you're watching this in horror, I do not blame you, but I will delete this video. So there's anything. Would anybody like to ask me anything, or shall I just sign off? Because this. Just see what Nick is saying here. Oh, awesome. I'm watching. Has he come on yet? Thinking. Okay. I just want to make sure that Nick that is not watching this, because that would be very embarrassing. And nothing from Cojizo. Oh, he's online. It might happen. The problem is though that we're supposed to start drinking at the same time so that as the show continues, um, it gets exciting together. But if he comes on now, oh shit! I just read my message. I kind of have been doing this on the assumption that this thing wasn't going to happen. Oh, he's getting there. He might actually. This might actually happen. Um, cool. So he's cool. I'll ask him for a rough ETA because I've got to play this cool because I'm a big fan. Don't want to pressure the guy. I mean, he's only almost 3 hours late. Not late. Hold on. This is not an indictment on him. I respect this man a lot. Oh, he wants to reschedule for tomorrow. That's a bit difficult because I am driving tomorrow. Tomorrow might be difficult. This, by the way, is also historic live streaming because you're watching a human being text in real time on your live stream. I mean, that is some next level shit. That's like Inception shit going on. This is all multimedia amalgamations going on in real time. Good to do. Tomorrow might be difficult for me. For me, we can do later tonight or Sunday night. Or Sunday night. Let's see about that. Okay, let's have a look. I'm going to read messages. I just click my fingers. They pop up on the screen. Shiv! That's a legendary human being that I am, who is laughing at me. Don't laugh at me, Shiv. I am vulnerable. Do you need a stand-in? Says Nick. Would you like to? Would you like one? Oh, I hope. Are you? I'm just going to ask Nick if he's watching. Because that would be terrible. But yeah. Okay, he is watching. Oh shit, I've got no excuses for this. Okay, fuck it. At least it's something. Let me just see. Nick. I would love to have you on. You kind of caught me off guard here. So, yeah, I would. But can I just check if what Kakisa says first, just because I booked him first? But tell you what I'm going to do, Nick. I'm going to send you the Zoom link in the meantime. Yeah, why not? Fuck it. I mean, well, not why not. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the suggestion of it, to be honest. Plot twist, says Nish. So I don't want to mention the Nick that I'm referring to if you're watching this now because it's very cool. Someone has said, "Are you still on 5FM?" Because the main reason I got listening to was you and DJ Fresh. That's very sweet of you. I'm not on 5FM. They fired me. That was a while ago, a very long while ago. Let me just try and figure out how. The reason. Okay, Nick, I'm going to send you a. Okay, first of all, let me cancel live on air. Let me just tell Kags, let's do Sunday. Let's do Sunday. There, I did it. Nick, you are my stand-in. I mean, you were on my list of. Okay, fuck it. We're gonna do it. I have to cancel my. Okay, end this. Then Nick, I will send you the new meeting request. Let me just check that my settings are right. Ladies and gentlemen, Nik Rabinowitz, the absolute god of comedy, is coming on the show, apparently. I don't say apparently in a sarcastic way. It sounded sarcastic. Oh, Nick, if you are listening, if you are indeed listening, please make sure you have something to drink with you. That's kind of the nature of the show. Right. So I'm going to just pause. Start that again. And then I'm going to need to invite you to this meeting. How do you do that again? How do you invite someone to a meeting on Zoom? I've completely forgotten, but that is not my fault. Ladies and gentlemen, Nik Rabinowitz will be joining us. If I can just fucking figure out what I have done wrong here. Take that away. take the chat away. I've messed up everything, participants. And then how do I invite someone again? I've been doing this every day. Invite. There we go. Invite email. So I'll do it via email. And this must be the worst thing to watch. Nick, well, I'll tell you everything if you go on here. So Nick, would you just send me your email address again? Do you mind? Let me just quickly see if I've got it here. This must be enthralling for someone to be watching. Must be truly. There is Nick's email address. People watching this, it must be like, this is what I joined Facebook for, to watch someone send an email in real time. This is just what it was all about. Okay, got it. I will tell you, Nick, that actually the real thing is that we're recording it for a podcast, and the fact that we're doing it, fucking hell, what have I done wrong? I'm lost. I've lost myself. I know. I just can't remember how anything works. Fucking invite someone. Oh, there you are. Okay, better. I think I'm there. There we go. Okay, Nick. Allow recipient Nick. Okay, I've sent you this email. I mean, you are walking into a dog show, and I'm proud. Okay, let me do a screen share. Let's do an application window for a Zoom meeting. Share. And now, okay, so this should be, if Nick comes on, this will be great. So, okay, my attitude is strong and the music is strong. Thank you. Kagiso was rooting for it. Plot twist. This is exciting. Yeah. Indiana Harrow. Rad how that's super cool. Just cost copy. But yeah, I know how to do it. I'm just lost in. I don't know what's going on. I do not know what's going on. This is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Nik Rabinowitz is apparently on the way. He's going to join my Zoom call, and if the audio all works out here, he should be on the screen, and that'll be great. I hope I've done this right. Hey, what other stories can I tell you while we wait? It says it's going to be very confusing for people who see Kagiso's name here. Oh, he's asked me what time on Sunday. Sunday night after. So we're going to do this again on Sunday night, I think, with Kagiso. After his kids are gone. Kids, after your kids. I've said his kids. Your kids are asleep. I don't know what. Oh my God. Fingers crossed. Let's hope he joins, says Indiana. Oh, let me just make it magically appear. Oh, maybe I have to let him in. Hang on. Maybe I haven't. Oh, here we go. Admit. Did it work? Nick? Nick! Can you hear me?
That's how every Zoom call
I can't
begins.
hear you. Now, this is what I was most worried about. This is the problem that I was having all along. Oh, and you got a drink. I cannot hear you, Nick. I just want to check something. Can everybody else hear Nick? I don't know how good you are at
Can you hear?
miming. Are you good at
Hello?
miming?
Hello? Hello?
Well, that's not
Hello?
miming. That's just speaking in big words as if I'm deaf.
Hi, John.
Because it's very possible that I've set this up all wrong. Nick, first of all, I'm a big fan, and I appreciate that you. Oh, people can hear you, just not me. Okay, well, that's a good sign because it means I can fix it. Nick, would you do me a favor and talk to people while I figure out how the fuck to fix the audio? That would be
All
great.
right.
What is
Hi,
going
everybody.
on?
How are you guys doing? I was just lying on the couch and I was trying to watch some
I don't even
Netflix
know where to start.
very loudly on her phone, which she has on speakerphone the whole day. And
Okay, that's
then
a
I
good sign.
thought, let me look at Facebook. Then I thought, let me look at Instagram. Then I thought, let me look at something else. And then
I
I
think
came
I
back to
sort of know
Facebook.
what's going on.
John making a live video. And then I thought, oh, It's going to work out. But maybe it won't. Who knows? Maybe I should look on
So
Facebook as well. Then.
this was not the plan. What can I
Well,
do
you-
to make this work?
Talk to me if you guys can hear me. Send me
Are
messages.
you gonna text me something?
I don't know. I'm not gonna text
Okay,
you
Nick's
anymore.
gonna text me.
Um.
You know what would be really stupid? Hold on, I've got an idea. We're gonna go lo-fi here. I'm gonna phone you.
That's hilarious.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
now
the
what
only
else?
way I can figure out how to do this. It's the audio is actually recording very well. I just can't hear
Okay.
you. That's the only problem. What I'm gonna
Well, I can put me on speakerphone then.
yeah, good idea. Hold on. I'm gonna put headphones. I'm gonna put another pair of headphones in.
Okay. Well, I
Um,
can hear you
One
fine.
second
You're
here.
not. You're
This is the
not
low
in
tech of high
my.
tech. You know
This
what the
is
fucking
hilarious.
stupidest thing is? I am probably one of the most experienced live streamers on planet Earth. This is
I
what I
know.
do
I
all
know that.
fucking day long is help people do their live streams. But can I do my own? I'm like a therapist. You know how therapists are great at helping other people, but their lives are a fucking mess? That's what I'm like when
I
it comes to this shit.
I actually might have
Can
experienced
you hear
that
me?
firsthand this week.
Yes. What, the therapy thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. I can hear you. And everyone else can hear both of
Okay.
us. First of all, I just want to. I'm going to start, Nick, by saying thanks for just dropping in. Everything that has happened today has not been according to plan. Somehow you are sitting in front of me, and I'm
None of
honored.
this. None of this is according to plan. None of
None,
it.
this is the embodiment of COVID-19. Just an absolute fuck show that creates togetherness in different ways.
You got to embrace it. You just have to embrace the fuck show. That's how
Well,
it works.
the one thing I'm lucky is that this show, the What's Your Poison show that I was doing as a radio show for many years, never had an agenda. It was just like getting really nice people in a room. We would drink whiskey or drink whatever was there, and conversations would happen. Um, and it was just like a last second decision to try and do it again. Um, I don't know how. Anyway, hi, firstly.
Hi, John. Hi.
So,
I really
I've.
just came on just to apologize for not having used Busker yet. That's the only reason I
Oh,
really just come on because I thought I needed to apologize publicly.
I wanted to ask you something though about some of your experience filming Queen Sono.
Yes.
What some of your challenges might have been.
Yeah. Well, it was getting all the actors in the room for the rehearsal.
Okay, so what's your
Um,
excuse for not using Busker then?
I was quite enjoying getting into characters.
You can't. Yeah, okay. Do you want to do that?
Not really.
We can yeah, we can play the honesty game, or we can have a lot of fun. How are
Let's have
how are you
fun.
finding doing comedy? Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jimmy Fallon. I even have a mug. That's how big a fan I am, right? If you got a mug, you got to be a fan. I feel sorry for him when he does his show. I mean, he's such a sweet dude, and it makes me really realize how hard it is to do comedy. Or Rob's like a great friend, like to do comedy in this environment. It's different from musicians who are playing music because it's like they get into it and it's all emotional shit. How are you coping with doing jokes to nobody?
Yeah, it's quite challenging. But I mean, there are different formats. So the kind of webinar format where you just see yourself is the hardest. But then there are comments as well. But you kind of like there's a bit of a time delay sometimes, and you don't know if people are just being nice or if they really are um, laughing whilst crying at the same time, which is what their emojis tell you they're doing, but they may not be doing
Mm.
that. And then, of course, these weird Zoom things where everyone's muted. I've started to unmute people, which is also can be fucking chaotic, but also
What do
can be quite
What
fun
do you mean
just to
unmute
hear.
people? What does that mean?
Well, just like instead of everybody being muted, actually unmute some people, or if not all of the people. So I've been doing it with like 60. If there's about 60 people, it can work,
60
and then
people
it can
unmuted.
be fucking. Yeah, I've done one or two like that, and they actually was surprisingly okay.
But what about all of the like the
feedback and
That sounds
the
crazy.
odd COVID cough. I
COVID.
mean, I've done some weird fucking gigs the last while. I've done a bar mitzvah on Zoom. I've done a 49th birthday party. I did a quiz for 12 people. After the quiz, I did jokes for 12 people. Somebody asked me to come on a Zoom call yesterday for a man in ICU. And I was like, can he actually talk? No, it was just a prayer meeting. I nearly performed at a prayer meeting today.
Amazing. I've had an idea actually about busker, about actually getting it used in bar mitzvahs, so that you can do a Zoom bar
Yes.
mitzvah and then give the people dollars as their. Would that work?
Instead of sweets.
Yeah, instead of sweets or like a check in an envelope. It's a Zoom where you just do it in real time. That was I've been thinking about like busker for bar mitzvahs, but busk mitzvah. I just thought of that now. I mean, it's
A
not great.
busk mitzvah. That is great. That is great.
Nik, I'm I'm really honored that you're here. Like, it's really insane that you're sitting here now. So thank you. I'm such a huge fan of you. You're a fucking. I mean, you are a gem as a comedian. And one of the things that's interesting is that comedians. I mean, you know this more than I. I'm not in your world, but what I respect about you, you have a quality that I don't have, and I kind of hate it and love it at the same time, and that is. Um, you're very serious about your craft in the way that comedians are supposed to be funny and people like throw jokes and shit at you. But the few times that I've approached you about projects, specifically, like, hey, why don't you come do this fun thing? Um, you've been like very serious about how you approach the project, how you tackle the project, how you put that shit together. Like it's amazing to see. It's like a true artist, but also a businessman, and all of that stuff that you put together. Think a lot about what you're doing. Um, Surely, one thing I know about my life is that what makes somebody is a shit ton of fuck ups to get you to the place where you kind of feel like you know what you're doing. Tell me about some of your fuck ups. That's where I was going with that.
You mean like pre-COVID or all of it?
No, like early day stuff you tried that didn't work, or
Oh yeah.
how you learned to take the reins.
Fuck. There was so many. I remember the first time I got heckled off stage. Well, they didn't literally heckle me off the stage. They just heckled me, and I voluntarily walked off the stage. It was the keg in Rondebosch. I'll never forget it. Some guy was just yelling, "You're not funny, get off!" And I was like, "Does that mean I need to get off?" I think so. So I walked, and the stage was like near the door, so you could literally walk out the door, and never came back. Went back to the keg in Rondebosch. I did weird. I remember dying in Nigeria. I flew all the way to some weird part of Nigeria, and I did like a two-hander with somebody across a swimming pool. There was a swimming pool between us and the audience, and they asked us to stop 5 minutes in because they were eating and we were shit. They were just like, I don't know. I hosted the Luries when I was like not prepared. I had no idea what the
Well, the Luries
Luries entailed.
is a particularly
Three thousand
bad
coked
audience.
up ad execs in some weird town somewhere, and that I remember very clearly after that gig thinking, I'm not cut out for this at all. I should go back to whatever the fuck I couldn't go back to. But that's, I guess, and this period now has reminded me of a lot of those fuck ups, doing things without like, it kind of feels like you're doing it for the first time, almost like I'm an open micer again. I did a few things at the beginning of lockdown that I learned some hard lessons pretty fast about what works and doesn't work.
But okay, well, let me ask you this. This is like people have responded to this time really differently. Um, for me, and I'm talking like this has been an amazing. I mean, obviously all the pain of being locked at home and family stuff and all that stuff. But what is unique about this time for me is just that I've always felt outside of the pack, always like a bit behind, bit in front, bit never in the right place, the right time. And suddenly the world is kind of reset, and it's a time that you can get it. You can sort of try something really new, and something that might historically have never worked can kind of work. Um, are you how are you feeling? Are you like experimenting a lot, or are you quite cautious in your approach into stuff? And also, what other people have you been looking at who are doing stuff that's really cutting edge and changing how you think about how the space works? Because doing shit in a digital, even this, I would never, should never, could never, would never. You shouldn't be here right now. Um, and that's what's fucking cool. You know, it's so mad, it's so out of the box that to me is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I jumped in quite early on, like almost against my better judgment as well. Somebody asked me if I would do a breakfast show a few times a week on Instagram Live, and I did that for season one of lockdown up until we went to level 4. And then this beer company asked me to do a series which I decided to do for my toilet called the Toilet Diaries
I've been actually asking people
because
for a
of
long
the
time to do something from their toilet, and I thought it was a niche market that no one was doing, and I'm happy to hear that you've done it.
yeah. Well, I mean, anyone's welcome to do it. Specifically, if you have kids, it's a great place to self isolate for at least a minute before they're like, "What are you making?" And so, but it was quite stressful because we've got 3 kids, and my wife's seeing patients online in the mornings, and then I'd have to grab the time, and it just took me to shoot a video was just taking me way longer than I thought, and scripted and all that shit. And so we'd fight every time I was doing one of those. So it kind of got to the end, and then I was relieved. And there's been a little bit of a hiatus in terms of producing my own content. I've been doing quite a lot of gigs online and corporate things and other things and bar mitzvahs. Um, I was actually just talking to Rob. We were interviewing, well, Donovan Goliath is somebody who's been doing all sorts of crazy, amazing shit um, in this space. And I got I got quite emotional because I was like, fuck, I literally don't have, it feels like I don't have a minute to think until about 9 o'clock at night because it's just kids and homeschool and Zoom calls. And it's Groundhog Day every day. And I've really been struggling the last couple of days, just feeling like, fuck this shit.
I just
Even
want
though
to.
I know, yeah,
I think it's important to just say, if you just track the cycles of how like the people have been affected by this differently, I definitely feel in the last week a lot of people have had like, are really getting to a point
yeah,
where it's actually affecting them seriously. So I totally hear what you're saying.
yeah. And it's, we remind ourselves that we are privileged, and there's a very small percentage of the population that can do what we are doing right now. And so reminding of yourself of that doesn't always make you feel better, but it's the reality. So we should be grateful that we can even fucking do this right now. But so Donovan is somebody who's doing really kind of like on the money in terms of the zeitgeist and what he's doing. Um, and so yeah, but it's the trap of that, also start comparing yourself to what other people are doing and then feel like what you're doing isn't good enough. And that's a trap that I fall into quite regularly.
Are you talking about
And then just to remember,
as a career thing, or like in lockdown mode thing?
no, just, well, like generally, but right now as well, I go through periods when I'm not creating any today. Okay, I did an online show, but I'm not producing any content. And then I talk to people who are producing content, and I'm like, I should be producing content, which is unhelpful.
You're a deep thinker type.
I do think about it quite a lot when it's not feeling like I'm in the flow of it.
What's funny about you, Nick, is your shit is edgier than most people's. I've been in like you know, debates with people in London and America about you who have seen your show, whether you're a racist or not, or whether you take it too
Oh
far or
yes.
not, stuff. Like it's hilarious to me, someone like you, who I'm not just saying I'm such a fan because you take your shit to the very fucking edge of it, that it's even possible to go. But when you talk to you like a serious dude who thinks about all this stuff, but when you watch your shows, because it's really organic and the content's so good and it flows so well and you're so good at it and you switch into accents and languages, it really is such a strange dichotomy to see. I'd love to be able to um, go behind the curtains and see how you operate and how you put all that stuff together. I mean, how much of your process is really like gut and how much of it is really mental because you really go where no one will go.
That's interesting. I mean, I feel like there are places that I haven't gone that I need to go that I haven't quite known how to get there. But thank you. In terms of the process, yeah, it's interesting because right now there's so much potential material on a day-to-day basis that your comedic brains are just going ding, 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 ding. But the way the process works for most of us is you write stuff and then you test it out in front of an audience and you see what works and doesn't work. And we can't really do that um, at the moment. Although I am putting in material that I'm writing, into Zoom shows and things, but you're kind of looking at people's faces, going,
You
"Is
can't
it
look at
is it
them.
funny? Is it funny?"
So what happens? Do
Um,
you get frustrated or does it change your process? I mean, what happens to Nik Rabinowitz? And you don't have to answer this. If I throw you into a space where and you're in a new environment, you're doing something new, it hasn't been scripted. I don't know because I don't know your world, so I'm asking this question as a fan. Like, do you crumble or do you improvise or do you need to rest on the where do you go in that? Because that's where you are now. This is a whole new space where you're testing stuff
mm,
on an environment where you don't get any feedback. So it's does your content change because now you're not waiting for a punchline? So maybe how you deliver it is different. Is content maybe different because now you want to package it in a way where you don't need that feedback, or do you find new like what you're doing is finding new ways to get feedback by having hundreds of people in a room whose mics are not muted, which is fucking crazy.
yes, there's so many things. I did my first online show a couple of weeks ago, um, and it kind of blew my mind in a bunch of different ways. Firstly, that 2,500 people bought tickets, uh, and
Wow.
then there was just one stream per house. So I don't even know how many people watched it. Um, I had one person in the room, which was my wife, watching it, which is also a concern because she's seen all the material and she doesn't normally laugh at much. So there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of anxiety about the platform and the tech, and what if it crashes and there's all these people on. My mother had an armed robbery the night before, and so she was here in the house, be
Jesus,
traumatized.
I'm sorry to hear that. That's
And
terrible.
she was like, "Can I watch the show?" And I was like, "No, you can't watch the show." It was just like, it was really, I mean, it was kind of this metaphor for this whole thing of just jumping into something totally unknown. And it worked really well. And the feedback was great. And it was just a webinar platform with me just looking at myself. And then the comments were coming too faster because there were so many people. I couldn't actually read the comments. But on smaller calls, what I've started to do is talk to people as well. So I tailor things for different organizations and groups, and I'm actually like, hey, I see what you're doing there, John. Blah, blah, blah. Um, and to make the thing feel more interactive and conversation, and that's what I think is happening is that stand up is becoming. Firstly, you can't do it standing up. That kind of doesn't work. It's got to be, yeah, I'm just sitting at my desk talking to you, so it's conversational. And Rob and I have spoken about this quite a lot. In fact, we started a podcast at the beginning of lockdown as well, where
It's a
we
great
are,
podcast.
are talking about the. Thank you. I mean, that's also for me like I can't tell if it's really shit or okay or
No,
whatever. But
it's
we
fantastic.
talk about and it's kind of tonight. I almost felt like giving up on it because I I was we were talking to Donovan and I was in some emotional spaces and I wrote on the paper I have nothing to contribute. And Rob just did the whole interview with our guest. I didn't ask a single fucking question.
Just
And then we spoke about it
can I
afterwards.
just
And
check?
yeah,
There's the second
yeah.
time you've spoken about being emotional when you were talking to him tonight.
Mm.
What's that? What's making you emotional about this?
Well, it's just been like uh, the feeling of Groundhog Day, and just like I'm stuck inside with these three. At times, they feel like banshees, uh, and I've just got to get out, and I can't get out, and it's that
Okay.
feeling of stuckness. But if you kind of sit with it, which I don't like doing with negative emotional stuff, if you can sit with it, it can pass through you, which I feel now it has, John. It has passed. But what I was going to say was what's interesting about the process is that it's no longer about punchlines, and it's more about ideas and themes and segues and hitting those, because you can't rely on ha 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 huge laughter and applause breaks and things.
Hmm. I mean, uh, this is what is interesting to me about Busker, and I'm not promoting Busker, and I'm not just because you refuse to use it. I'm not
It's
accusing you.
not a refusal. It's
I'm no,
not
no,
a
no, no, no.
refusal.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I just want to tell you what is interesting to me about Busker. It's I don't know what it is. I made it, and it's working for some people. It's not working for others. But the if I were to, it's related to what you're saying. This is what is interesting about Busker. The beauty of Busker is this: people, it measures how people feel while they watch your live stream. It works not well, like the people who've tried it in talk show scenarios, like we're having an interview and you've got a Busker code up. It doesn't work so well. Why? Because you need those emotional points for someone to feel like I want to contribute to you right now. And not only do I want to contribute money right now, the amount that I'm going to contribute to you is related to how I feel right now. It's like a heart purchase. So that's why it works really well with performers, because when they do something that really hits a nerve, someone gives them 1,000 rand in the moment. Why? Because they fucking feel right now emotional. They're going to cry. They want to give you the money. Um,
Mm.
and with some of the comedy performances, it's been all over the place. Some of the shows have done really well, and then lots of the shows have not done really well. What I'm interested in is the Busker code measures what people respond to in real time, what they really respond to, and I'm looking for I'm looking for the artists that go, okay, I'm going to measure using Busker what works and what doesn't work, because now I have to find moments that resonate with my audience, because that's going to actually turn into a contribution to me. So if I get like 100 contributions when I did a very specific thing, I did a joke about this, or the way I did it, or I didn't do like
Huh.
punchline. Oh, now I know. I'm going to look at my video at minute 17. I got 26 50 rand contributions. What did I do? Oh, you know what I did there is I actually told a really honest story about what's happening at home with a specific, yeah. And then for people to like map out what people are responding emotionally to. And that's been for me the most interesting thing about Busker, is figuring out who is good. Some guys come out and go like, la la la, Oasis cover, la 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 cover. Why has no one contributed to me? I played bars every night and people throw money at me and no one's contributing to me, because they don't understand this. Like, it's all about that little one-on-one
Yes.
connection. And so with Busker, not an ad, like trying to map out what people are responding to. I'm trying to encourage comedians to use it because not for you, but so because I'd like to understand how comedy is going to change by measuring it through how people respond because it's not. And again, that's why I brought in Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon's show doesn't work because he's still doing the same jokes, and there's no laugh audience, so he doesn't have the laugh track to rely
Mm.
on. But he's still going like, "Oh, Trump's so fat. Wait for response." You know,
You know
and
what's funny. You know what's funny about that is so Rob and I with our podcast. It started as it started out as just two friends, just authentically communicating about what's going on for them, and I kept thinking that people wanted to be funny, so I now and then throw in stuff. And today, because of how I was feeling, I threw in a few jokes, and he was like, "We were having such a great conversation, and then you started doing setups and punchlines, like and ill-considered punchlines. What the fuck is going on, Nick? What is going on?" I was like, "Oh, I don't have to do that. Like, sorry. That's not what this is."
but you remember, it's
But
hard. It's hard. It's
I'm
hard.
glad you mentioned that.
Sorry, go for it.
No, I hadn't thought of busker in that sense. I sort of was thinking of it as money and fundraising and give. I need and you give. I hadn't thought of what you just said, which is great.
Just to your podcast, it's not easy to hear. It's something. I'll be honest with you. Like, it's not easy to hear comedians being serious. And the perfect example is for me one of my absolute favorite comedians of all time is Eddie Izzard. Nothing has turned me off Eddie Izzard more than hearing his interviews and his plight for like trying to save the world and shit. Because he's a fucking boring human being. He's the most boring person ever. With, as you know,
Oh, it's so
I
disappointing.
know. So, so I think like you drive a fine line, and it's hard for normal people to hear. I mean, I reckon. Okay, just so you know, because this was intended for Kahiso. He knew this. This is a podcast that's going to come out. Well, I'll get your permission after this in about 5 weeks' time, because there's already a queue of many shows. But in 5 weeks' time, this will come out as an audio podcast. But comedians have it hard because hearing comedians not be funny is difficult for a lot of people. They don't. They think that
Mm.
they obviously that that you're not being the clown, but you are an anomaly in this space. Like Kakiso is cool because he is a clown in an interview, but you are like a to me you're a comedy scientist. I'd love to spend 5 hours with you unpacking how you think about your craft because it really blows my mind how you work. Um, but you aren't volunteering any of that stuff.
Well, sorry, I wasn't sure what the question. If there was a question there.
Why must I ask questions? This is just a chat, a
You just
friendly
want to get
chat.
straight into the science. No. Listen, I'll rather give you conspiracy theories. No one cares about science anymore. That's all. That's all done.
Right.
But you know what's interesting is this is my 20th year, I think, doing stand up, or 19th. I think it's either one of the two. And I'm only sort of just feeling like I have a good intuitive sense of comedy, but also can back it up with. Uh, I wouldn't call it scientific because I
Experience.
still don't think I'm at that level. But there's experience and there's pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. You know what's going to work, and you start to. Uh, it takes this long. I don't know who said this, but it takes a long time to start sounding like yourself. I think it might have been Louis Armstrong actually, and I like it because you kind of you look to other people for a long time, and then you start to work out. Oh no, I actually have an authentic voice of my own, and does what I'm saying here resonate with me and my voice, and how do I stay true to that?
Cool. I mean, I recognize this. Like the trap is this. I think about myself as a songwriter that when I was a new songwriter, I wrote all this mad shit. I had no idea what I was fucking doing. And in that was the magic. And then as I figured out what I was doing, there's two kind of paths. There's the paths where I know what I'm doing and now I'm going to do what I'm doing. And then there's the path of now I know what the rules are. I'm just going to totally I- ignore them because I know what's the like the sort of Bruce Lee or the master thing is like once you know all the shit you can do what you want. But different comedians, or let me say musicians, because that's more my wheelhouse. Different artists make different decisions. Like, oh, my artist, my fans know this. I'm gonna do lots more of this, and I know how to do this shit in my sleep. Or sort of the Tom York philosophy is like always be experimenting. Always, I know the rules, and I'm here to always be pushing the boundaries. To me, you have a foot in both of those camps because I've never known a comedian who pushes boundaries as far as you are or you're willing to. But how do you compete with yourself, really?
Badly. I mean, I don't see myself like that at all. But I think I constantly have this conversation about being relevant or not being relevant, and it's sometimes quite debilitating. And my wife tells me has to tell me to shut up on a regular basis. Um, I was listening to I don't know what's his name. He's one of the guys on the Daily Show. Roy Wood Jr. is his name, and he has a small child of 3 years old, as do I. And so he was talking about he's got to spend time with his kid, and he doesn't read. He writes between midnight and 4 a.m. That's when he works on his stuff, which I've attempted to do on a couple of nights, but it's for me not that sustainable. But the other thing he was saying is two things. One is it's hard to create a show right now that's about what we're going through. Um,
COVID fatigue.
there's COVID fatigue, but there's also just having the space to develop ideas, and typically we do that when we're on the road and
Aha.
it's quiet
I see.
and
I see. I see.
quiet time and space to think. And there's not a lot of space for me to think right now. That's the one thing. The other is not having an audience. And when we do get an audience at some time, we don't know when that's going to be, but there's this. I loved what he said. He's like, you'll be there, there'll be an audience, and that first cough will be like a gunshot
Hmm.
going off. You'll be like mid punchline or mid whatever, and it's and the whole everybody's like, what the fuck? And so there's all these different dynamics right now. People, early on I did a show and people were like, where are the COVID jokes? Well, A, I hadn't had time to write them, and B, people are dying.
Where's the COVID jokes? That's a
like, where are
T-shirt,
the
please.
COVID jokes? Jesus Christ. So it's an interesting time for comedians.
But again, I sort of bring it back to this idea: are you changing your process, or are you waiting for a time where it's more comfortable? And I'm not saying that to challenge you. I'm saying that because that's what's interesting to me is that what if it never goes back? What if it takes 3 years until you're doing a live show again? What do you do about that?
Yeah, I think I've not been thinking about it going back to normal. I don't expect it to go back anytime soon, and I think I was just forced to dive in, and people are hungry for connection. People are really hungry for it right now, and so that's my job. That's my job as a comedian, is not just to be funny, but fulfill that need, really connect,
Mm.
find a way to look deeply into that pinhole at the top of my screen to make them feel like I'm looking at them when in fact I'm just trying to look into a pinhole, but it makes them feel better.
Well, I mean, that is the, I always think about that when when I during idols when people like, and so I love you. You know, they look into these like swinging
Yeah.
cameras coming past them, which must be very stressful. Actually, I mean that is the
That was
connection.
one of my first jobs. Involved one of those. They were called, I
Jibs.
don't know. It's just like but it was like it was a jib, but it wasn't a giant jib. It was like a very almost had almost a GoPro type of a camera on there, and I'd have to say, "Hello, good evening, welcome to the Coca-Cola Mega Millions Game Show."
I'll tell you. I've got two jib stories for you. The one was when I was in cassette. We played on some TV show, and we were fucking rocking our asses off, and this jib came right over my head, and I like sang to it, and it was like, oh, I'm so pro. I was thinking, oh, idols. I'm an idols guy now. But motherfucker, I never knew about this huge fucking bald spot I've got until I saw that on television, and I've never forgotten it. That was the worst thing. I don't allow jibs near my head because I can see that it's. I hate jibs.
That's
Yeah, true
great.
story. True story. The other one's not that interesting. When I first started directing many years ago, I got this unlimited budget to do this TV show for an overseas company, and I said I want jibs. I think I was like 19. I was like, I want fucking jibs everywhere. I'm gonna jib this. I'm gonna jib that. Not realizing it takes like half a day to get a jib shot. You know, to set up the. It was before the days of drones and shit. There's like 11 people operating it, and after 3 days in, we were 7 weeks behind schedule. So I was told by the producer, no more jibs. Random story. Um, family.
How's your squash, by the way? How's your
Uh,
squash these
uh,
days?
strong actually. I started playing again. Do you know Daryl Tor at all? At all? My
No.
friend Daryl Tor. My friend Daryl moved from Joburg to Cape Town, and he doesn't know anybody here, so we've been playing squash every week. How do you know I play squash? Have we played squash before?
Well, we went to the same school, and your brother was a bit like he was a bit of an idol for me.
He
Like
was a squash god.
Simon Savage was. He was a squash bud. He was like bod. I say yeah,
God. He was
bod.
a
He,
squash
he
bod.
was God. He was incredibly good looking. He had that sort of like uh cowboy.
He was fucking
What's
wild,
the word
bro.
I'm looking for? It's sort of rugged masculinity. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you a few things about my brother, but only because this is the whiskey talking, right? The good.
Somewhat withdrawn,
The chicks the
quiet.
chicks were obsessed with my brother. He was a naughty motherfucker, right? The guy
Yeah, yeah.
was, he was out of control in our school. He was stealing shit. He was stealing cars. When I was like,
Oz.
yeah, when I was like 14, I think he picked me up in a car to take me to some party. I was like, I had my hand. He was 16, and I had my hand on the door because I was like scared he was gonna kill us. I went to some, he was. I was like the little nerd who was like fucking freaking out. My brother was wild, and I'll tell you something else about my brother, who I love. Um, most of his friends from those days are no longer alive or in jail.
Whoa.
He was in a bad crowd, but man, girls loved him, and yeah, he has this crazy ability. You know, most brothers are very competitive. I learned at a very early age not to compete. He was a world class squash player very young. He was playing like Western Province under 19 when he was 15 at squash. He picked up bowling, like old man bowling, and was like winning tournaments within 3 weeks of picking up a ball. Anything he's ever done, he's become like a world champion at it very quickly. And when he was 16, he picked up a guitar because he wanted to be Jimi Hendrix, and he learned classical music. And within 3 years, he was in the Royal Academy of Music in London and was considered one of the
What
top
the
young
fuck?
classical guitarists in the world. Um, yeah, so I mean, that's he was a freak. So I'll tell you something.
What is he doing now? Where is he?
He lives in London, and he is a school teacher at the moment. I think, yeah, he's tried I think his immense talent has been sort of balanced by the fact that he can do anything. And I think if you can do anything, it's confusing for you. So he's kind of diced around on different play, and he's great. Anything he touches is amazing, but then he can't stick in a lane because he gets bored of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised you remember that. Like, I'll tell you something. One of my highlights in my life was my brother had a back injury when he was in his mid-20s, and for the 2 years he could barely walk. I trained at squash for 2 years, and then when he came to South Africa, for he lives in London, I was like, why don't we play a friendly game of squash? He didn't know I'd been training my ass off. And of the 5 games we played, I won the first one, and that's the proudest thing of my life.
Well, tell him I say hi. He might remember a very red-faced, young, curly-haired squash player called Nik.
I remember you played squash. I think you were in the first team, weren't you? You were a pretty serious squash player.
I did play first team squash at some point, maybe
I think
only
that's
in
how
a
I knew
trick, because
you.
we actually had a lot of good squash players at that time.
Did you? I do remember
Did,
this.
yeah.
Every time, well, when I was at squash at Westerford, whenever we played tournaments, I always kind of came third in the plate. I was that good. Got all my third plate
Dr.
medals
Gibbons
hanging on the wall.
hand you the plate. Well done. And you do that double grip handshake.
Oh, I have to start the proud. Can I tell you one? Here's a Westerford story that you might appreciate. When the first year Dr. Gibbon was kind of in Westerford, I did a production of. You remember at the end of the year there was like a performance piece. I can't remember what it was called, where all the guys, and I did the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I managed to get Dr. Gibbon to play the guy who goes, and it's just a jump to the left. He did it in the performance, right?
What?
And this was the craziest thing. Our shit was like all very sexual. It was all like, it's a new in and out, la, Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff. And then another group, I mean, everyone went crazy for it, but another group did Grease Lightning, where and they did Wella, ooh, and Mr. Bissett told them off and said like, this is too sexual. And I was like, how are they telling them off?
Wow. Mr. Bissett once gave me a caning with an actual cane.
Those were the days when you could get canes.
Those are the days.
Nick, can I ask you how old you? I was the year behind when my brother got caned. Your year got caned, and then I wasn't the year that wasn't allowed to get caned.
And you missed it. I was, well, I'm 44 this year.
So I was just behind you then.
Do you know, I when I finished matric, the very next year was 95. And my dad used to love going to Sandy Bay and hiking all the way down to a place called Otiskip. He was like part of the first nudists there in the 1950s.
Wow, that's cool.
And so we'd go there from time to time, and we went on this hike, and we came back. We were all fully clothed, and standing. I'll never forget this on the end of the beach, waiting to leave. And I saw this guy walking, a slightly pot-bellied man wearing nothing but a hat, with a familiar-looking walk.
I can't wait for the end of this story. I'm so excited to hear who this is.
And it's not a very exciting punchline, but it's not a punchline at all. But I looked and I thought, that cannot be the headmaster of the school I matriculated from last year. Please let it not be. And then as he came closer, I realized it was in fact Dr. Gibbon. And he then clocked me, and we met eyes. Our eyes met across a crowded nudist beach, and he saw me and decided to walk straight up to me and greet me warmly. Warm regards from Dr. Gibbon. Might even have removed his hat as he shook hands with me.
I have a lot of respect for that. I have more respect for him. I mean, he's cool, man. That's quite a situation to find yourself in. I can't imagine being the headmaster of a school, meeting my pupil on a nudist beach and going, okay, what am I going to do? I'll tell you what, hat off, cock out. Hi, nice to see you.
Splendid work, as he would have said.
family.
This is only my
Yeah.
second alcoholic beer in lockdown, by the way.
Really? Yeah. You know what? I've got 4 dreg bottles of whiskey because in the very first week or two, our whiskey, all of our stuff was gone. And when Cajizo, I mean, I was surprised he agreed to even do this thing. I was like, fuck, I got to make a plan. So I literally got all of like the things out of the back of the cupboard. I drank half of them waiting for him, to be fair. And it was,
You know what?
yeah,
One of the reasons I came on was because I saw you. Sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to finish that train of thought?
there was no train. It was
Okay.
the station is
No, because
empty.
it reminded me of my early lockdown experiences on Instagram Live, where I'd be desperately trying to get the person on, and then I couldn't. You have to send that fucking request thing, and then I couldn't find them, and it disappeared, and then the person would disappear, or I'd get them on, and then they hadn't updated their Android, so then I couldn't see them, and it was just buffering, and it's not as and I
Well,
thought.
I got to. I have no ill will because this is how I played this. Like, um, Kahiso's one of my heroes. I don't know him that well. Like, I can't believe he said he would do this thing. I asked him. He was like, "I'm fucking in. Just tell me when." So I was like, "How about Friday?" Because I thought he'd go. Let me get back to you. And he was like, "No, I'm in. Just book it. Let's do it." And then earlier on today, I was like, "Look, I'm having some home issues with my kids," and I was like, "Listen, I'm totally chill. I don't care how long it takes. I'm gonna sit here and wait for you." And that was at 8:30, and at 9:30, I was like, "How are you doing?" He's like, "Listen, I got to be honest. I've got this issue and that issue." And I was like, "Listen, I am chill, but I'm getting drunker and drunker sitting in this chair. And at some point, I just think I'm gonna press start, and I'll just go like, 'Oh, he's coming,' and then I'm gonna hang up." And then I realized I was pretty wasted when that moment happened already.
Three things that I've noticed that I have envy about.
Yeah.
One is your mic setup,
Yes.
and
Can I
two is your lighting.
can I tell you about this? I want to actually show you this. Look, because
Yeah.
the day that they announced lockdown, what went through my mind was people are going to need live streamers. They're going to need live streaming. And this is everyone's suddenly a motherfucking live streamer. I've only been doing it for 15 years. This is really my wheelhouse. And now suddenly there's a billion nobody needs me anymore. But pre-lockdown it was a different world. I was still John, the guy who knows how to live stream. So I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get all my live streaming gear and set it up. So if I show you what's in this room, like I've got a ring light like that. That's what's lighting my face.
I saw ring lights advertised today, and I thought, do I need one?
I got green. So I've got a green screen that's currently I fucked up so badly from using so many times, but I've got a spare one sitting over there. If you can see that, probably not.
Yeah.
So a green screen I can put out and do a whole lot of live streaming. I've got LED lighting on either side when I get my live stream. I've got this is like a pro webcam, and then I've got various other cameras set up in the room if I need multiple angles. And then I've got this, which is actually the key, because here's the thing: people will forgive bad video, but bad audio is unforgivable. Interestingly, I've actually created a pack for Rob. Rob has the worst audio of any comedian in South Africa. And so I've actually
Yeah.
created a pack for him that I'm supposed to take to his house to give him better audio just because he needs it. Even during the most amazing show, Corne sounds like he is in a studio and Twaki sounds like he's in a fucking
Yes.
basement. Yeah. Anyway,
I need a pack with like everything in your room.
I'll make one for you, Nick, with the greatest of pleasure. This is fun. I can do that for you. And
Will you
also,
really?
I will. And also, I'll tell you something. This stuff is really cheap to do well. Most of my friends who are doing live streaming now have spent fortunes on all the wrong shit. All the shit that people spend their money on, I was spending my money on 3 years ago. Today, the setup is really affordable, like super affordable. And it's really exciting that it's so affordable and that it's kind of changing every day. What I'm using to
Yes.
stream this actual broadcast is a new piece of tech I only just discovered. It's been game changing. I'm happy.
What is it called?
This is called StreamYard. And what it has is,
Yes.
I'll tell you about StreamYard. It has backstage area. So we're not using it now. I'm using Zoom. And the reason I am is because the actual purpose of this recording was I was never going to live stream. In fact, like an hour before I said to Chiso, I'm not going to live stream, but what if we did? What if we just live streamed it and then deleted it and then denied it ever happened? Because the actual show is going to happen in a month. It'll be a nice to fuck with people, right?
Yes.
But the streaming tech here is very interesting. If I did it properly, I would bring you into a backstage area where I could completely control your camera, give you all sorts of lighting and changes and background things, bring you into my stream,
Yep.
and that's really I find this is the coolest thing about lockdown is it's making us really push ourselves to find production outside of the box. When I say the box, I mean
It's
this box.
speaking of Rob and I hosted a music concert about a month ago, and they used StreamYard, and it was so baffling what was going on because
Smooth.
the guy was like, okay, you guys are backstage, and then you want to just encourage the people. We're streaming to like 20 different pages, and they must go into Zoom. But then the people that are in Zoom, ask them to come out of Zoom, and the ones that are out can go back in anytime they want. But it's nicer to be out than in. But sometimes it's better to be in. You got that right. I'm like, no.
Well, I'll tell you this:
No.
the audio fuck up we had was because it's actually what I've realized is streaming through Zoom into StreamYard is another. I've got a lot of software running, and I'm an audio person, so the fact that I'm using my phone to actually to talk to you is a big thing. But if you were to come through the StreamYard back end, it would have been smooth as a thing. But I wanted to use Zoom because my primary thing is recording the audio for the podcast, not to do a live stream. The live stream was not meant to happen. This part was just I know. It's just
well, it seems successful. There are still 8 people watching.
Yeah, we went from 7 to 10 to 8. But I also blame people for I did about 17 tests. They all failed. So like people are like, I'm not fucking going on this thing anymore.
Yes. I actually have been threatening myself to start streaming, and I think now's the time to return to my breakfast show. But I need to dive in.
Well, let me offer you something.
Dive back in.
Okay, so I am a busker in the sense that I'm most comfortable when things are unprepared. My strength is when things are like rough and ready and shit isn't happening. I would happily do your stream for you through StreamYard. Like I'll handle the show so that you can handle the performance, and that is because this is it's difficult to be a performer and a streamer, and I think this is what all you guys are struggling with. Is like you got to do the thing and worry.
Yes,
Rob, I've spent 711 hours just teaching him how to use his own phone, right? And I love the guy.
I know,
but that gets in the way of him doing his thing, and I'm happy to take that shit on, and I'd happily do it for you just because.
That's very generous of you.
No,
thank you.
I'm. It's like asking if Elvis asked you if he'd help you with a stream, would you do it?
Yes, but it might be Tony the King in disguise.
Oh, you saw that documentary.
You don't know who Tony the King is? Oh, yes. It's not the whole thing, but I appreciate. Oh, we've got a comment. Somebody actually is watching.
Very interesting.
Very interesting discussion. So relevant.
Also, the circus continues. And watch this. Can I show you? Check this out. This is the best thing about StreamYard. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
The comments on the screen. What? Oh, how did that happen? It's like magic. Oh, you're not watching on Facebook. You're watching on Zoom. But
I'm watching both. Yeah. I'm watching Facebook.
So you're seeing the comments come up.
Yes.
It's flashy. I like the flash, I'm not about the substance. I'm about what looks cool.
It's got to look cool. And you do look very cool, I have to say. And that's the ring light that's speaking.
This is what I'm trying to say. Everyone needs a ring light.
I saw Om's advertiser today, and I thought, do I need a ring light?
Well, I'll tell you what it does is, like, lighting is very important. It's really a lazy man's lighting thing, because I've got 3-point lighting on here. What you're supposed to do is light yourself 3-point lighting, which is a little bit of light there, a lot of light there, and some backlighting. But I got what I realized in COVID time was that you need quick setups, not quality setups. And the ring light just gives you a nice little glow. easy to turn on and turn off, and you don't have to worry. So convenience and quality are like are
Yes.
compromised. So like you want to be able to stream now because something has just happened in the news. You want to go live on Facebook and do a comedy set, and you want to look good quickly without having to ask people for help. And that's why this ring light's really cool. I don't know what's going on anymore. Can we talk about your family life a little bit? I know we've spoken before,
Yes.
and you have a absolutely magnificent family, beautiful family. Um, and you say like, as you say, it's very tricky for you because it's hard for you to think until the wee hours because you've got a lot of family
Yeah.
jumping on you. Um, and you can't use that stuff. You can't use that. It's not like, hey, my kids are jumping.
I've been using,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I used it a lot, and I think that actually helped me cope with it. And maybe when I stopped using it, then it became too much for me. And there's a lesson in there. Um, but that, yeah, I mean, it's like this paradox of this. I mean, a time that we may never have again with our kids if you have kids.
We hope.
And so there's we hope there's that kind of, on the one hand, this like privilege of being with them, and on the other hand, it's like, get the fuck back to school.
Yeah, yeah. I know it really well. This room, can I just tell you, this room, I have four pianos in this room and an electric guitar and a drum kit. And
Four.
when my kid is in this room and I have a meeting on and I won't let him like be on the camera and mute everyone, he has his default of going to make something really noisy next to me. Yeah.
I did a show. I did a show yesterday or the day before, where the dog started barking probably for 4 minutes, which feels like an eternity when you're in the middle of a stand-up
4 minutes
show.
is forever. Yeah.
And before anyone realized the dog was barking, and then my middle child came, and I barricaded myself in here, and he just banged on this glass door also for another
Yeah.
3 minutes. And eventually I had to say, sorry, everybody, just hang on a second. Somebody get the child! And people, that's the beauty of it right now.
That's the best.
Everybody gets
that's
it.
the
They get
yeah.
it, and they want to see you. They want to see you lose your mind as well. They want to see
Well,
that.
it's not that. I think it's the authenticity that they want to see, and it's like
Yes.
it's this that is interesting to me about your art form. When I was on 5FM, the thing I hated was, and it's the reason I started a digital radio station, which is now 4 years in, right? The thing I hated was everything was perfect. You know, like it doesn't matter what the fuck was going on. Everything was perfect. Oh, it's a beautiful day, guys. Everything is super fucking cool. No one ever told anyone how they felt. So when I started the
Yes.
Eye, my first thing was when I like, if you're gonna sound like a DJ, you're fired. And I fired very many people who started off going, "Oh, we're so excited to be on the Eye. Everything is cool." I was like, actually,
No, you're not.
that's not true.
No, it isn't.
The fucking mouse is broken and there's no mouse pad, and that doesn't sound like a good thing. But you know, if you're not saying like, "Fuck, the mouse pad is broken," and there's too much noise because there's a fucking fire engine outside, then you're not telling the truth. And that really,
Yeah.
like, I really loved that and explored that. And I think what you're saying is, people are hungry for truth. They're hungry to know who Nik is, even though you're out there doing jokes and doing the stuff that you've prepared. When something really real happens to you in real time, that's when they really turn on to you. And how do you use that in your performance?
Totally. I mean, it's interesting. Somebody said to me a week or so ago, yeah, I feel like a lot of you comedians are, on the one hand, doing great stuff, but on the other hand, damaging your brands because we can see you haven't shaved, and it's like the mystique is broken. And I was like, part of me was like, oh fuck, I haven't shaved, but the other part of me was like, the much bigger part of me was like, no, dude, like, thank fuck we can break the mystique. That's what people are desperate for. This whole, I used to have this bit in a show about just asking somebody how they are. And the stats are like 90% of people lie 90% of the time, or 100% lie 90% of the time. And this is the beauty of now, is you ask somebody how they are, they're fairly likely to give you an honest appraisal. And it's refreshing.
To get honesty?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a tough question now. Finally.
Go.
All right, so this must be the dichotomy that you're experiencing now. And that is, I'm going to use Dianford as an example here. And I might go be way off base, but it popped in my head. My fucking show. Fuck you, I'm going to say it anyway. Um, Dianford create these characters. And
Yeah.
the problem with these characters, as they have seen, and the extreme version of it, is that they get trapped by them. Now, like, I remember when they first did that whole big Rolling Stone article, they were faced with a dilemma because now they've created these characters that are Deanford, and Waddy Jones doesn't fit into the character of. So they have to now make up a new backstory that Waddy Jones is a fictitious, like a development of Ninja. So Ninja's the real me now, and now they're stuck.
Mm.
They're stuck in that world.
Yeah.
Now back to sort of the Eddie Izzard world. When you go on stage, to an extent, you've spent a lifetime creating a character, doing the jokes that you do, doing the accents, and actually one of the questions I want to ask you about is about learning a language. I would love you make me embarrassed that I don't speak Zulu. Like genuinely embarrassed to my core that I've had many false. We'll get to that. You are in. The idea that Eddie Izzard is a boring motherfucker is because the character he has created is so compelling, and the real him, once I meet him, is not compelling.
Yes.
And you're in the world now where COVID has forced those two characters to meet to a certain extent. So,
Mm.
so how do those two characters meet to Nik Rabinowitz's in Nik Rabinowitz's world?
Yes. It's interesting. We were interviewing Skulk, beside note, and
Well, he's lucky because he doesn't have a character.
well, that's
No, no, no.
interesting
That's yeah.
because he he said I don't know what the question was. Rob asked him some question because Rob asks all the great questions, and Skulk said, "Well, when I wrote my thesis, so he was a drama student at UCT, and he wrote his final thesis on stand-up comedy. He said I interviewed Nik Rabinowitz, and I said something. He asked me something about my onstage persona." And I allegedly said something that I'd heard somebody else say, which was pretty much just an amplified version of myself. Or I think I said something like myself with the volume turned up. And I think that the I feel fortunate that I've kind of had my eye on that, although yeah, I guess you grow as well. 19 years of doing something, you also are growing as a human being, and so the kind of thing changes. But essentially, it's always been a thing for me to push for authenticity in the work that I'm doing, which is often a problem for my partner because she's like, "But do you have to be that authentic about our relationship on the stage?"
Mm.
Sorry. Um,
I mean
so
that's power.
So, and it was a question. I remember David Kramer asking me this. I worked with him years ago, and he was like, "No, but you need to be clear on who your onstage persona is, because it's not you. And for me, it is me. It's just the volume is turned up because of it's a performance, but it's still essentially me. And that's something I. The first 2 years of doing comedy, I played a character, and that was really confronting to give that up and start working on just being me. Um, so I feel in some senses quite liberated by this opportunity now, because for years I've been wanting to marry the onstage comedian with the offstage person who
Hmm.
thinks about what it is to be human, and conversations for how do we transform ourselves and grow and develop and expand. And And it seems like now is a good time. I did this talk for a mindfulness collective the other day about humor in a pandemic, and it was like, oh fuck, I get to speak about things that I've been thinking about off stage for so many years, but not quite known how to synthesize. And so I think that's what's quite exciting for me right now.
That's beautiful, man. Look, Nick, I don't know how much longer. I could talk to you for another 7 hours if you like.
Well, our children are going to wake us up soon.
Listen, I just want to say I'm such a huge fan. I cannot believe you came in here, just stood in for. I'm really appreciative. You have no idea. Thank you for speaking openly and honestly about all this stuff and entertaining my questions. I love you, Nick. You're amazing, and it's really I'm such a privilege to chat to you. These are questions I've always wanted to ask you, but I'm a little bit scared of you because you are that kind of
What?
because you are that kind of to me you are like that. I don't know how to explain that. Like sort of you are that real. You're a true artist in the sense that you take your art seriously. It's not a frivolous, funny thing. You're not just like a. And I respect that so much that I'm scared about entering that world or challenging that world or inviting you onto a project if I haven't really thought through it very deeply and that it's the right thing. And so I have so much respect for how you operate. Whenever I see you, it's always world class. I have a random chat to you, and it's incredible to hear you speak, and an honor. So thank you for joining us on the podcast you didn't know you were on.
Well,
And shouldn't
it was
yeah. And I was
it
building
was
I
a
was
great
building
pleasure.
up. I had to build up to ask you to be on it one day, and I thought, you know what, this is true. I'm all about honesty, Nick. I've got no filters, right? I was like, I've got an idea. If I ask Nick to help me with questions for Kagiso, he's going to know more about my podcast. And when I ask him about it, he's going to say yes because he knows that Kagiso is my.
Ah, yes,
So
yes.
in a weird way, this all worked really well for me. And actually, Kagiso was never going to be on the thing. So this was my plan all along. I don't know.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
I thank you. I thank you for
Thank you.
saying those nice things, and I thank you, although I haven't utilized it yet, but will. Um, but I thank you for creating this busker thing because it has made a difference for a lot of people that maybe wouldn't be eating if it wasn't for that.
I appreciate that, and there might be no solid business plan behind it, but I really appreciate that some people are really doing well out of it. It's I'm very proud of it for that reason.
So
So
great job.
thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
I love you, man.
I love you. And before we go, I just want to tell you, are you okay that this is one of my podcast episodes? Because
Absolutely.
okay, cool.
I'm
That
honored.
it's law now, so your lawyers can't do anything about it.
Fuck, I could have prepared better though.
Yeah, that's true. That's what everyone keeps saying on the comments. Why didn't Nick prepare for this shit? He doesn't know what he's talking about, says Indiana. Nish says, what the fuck is going on? That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah. Maybe we'll do another one.
Our retention rate is great though. We're still on five people.
That's not your retention rate. That's my Facebook's retention rate. And I'll be honest. Um, most nights I'm doing tests for other people's busker codes on my Facebook page. And when I first started doing this a month ago, there was like 700 people like checking in, and it's gradually diminished because they all assume I'm doing a test for somebody else. It's the first time I've done anything for myself on my Facebook page.
I see.
Yeah, not to make excuses. Either that or nobody gives a shit that I'm alive. Love you,
Go
Nick.
get some sleep, brother.
Love your work. Thank you for. I
Adios.
really appreciate you filling in here, man. It's crazy. It's crazy
Great
cool.
pleasure.
Go away now.
Okay, John. Bye.
Bye.